What's up, family? Yo, this is a very important message and a very important video to a lot of you parents out there. So I'm gonna title this one here, Parents' Obligation to Teach Our Children. Trust me when I tell you, Mom, Dad, I know you're busy at work. I know you maybe be working 2 jobs. Times are hard financially, whatever the case, but we must find time in the day and the night to teach our children. Because trust me when I tell you, the schools ain't gonna do it. They're gonna teach them a bunch of unnecessary, useless nonsense that will definitely not help them to be productive in society. And then when you got nonsense like the governor of Florida and other states where they saying Afro-American history is not important, that in itself shows you the disrespect, how they always try to discredit us. So that's why I say it's parents' obligation to teach our children. So let me get on with the importance. So since they want to say it's not important with our history, that's why I say parents, it's your obligation to teach them. Let's show how important we really are. I'm going to start off with simple ones. I'm only going to scratch the surface, but let me show you how great we are. Let's start off with a great woman by the name of Henrietta Lakes. Now, Henrietta Lakes, there's not many photos of her. It's only very few, like maybe just 1 or 2 photos. But Henrietta Lakes is someone of great, prestigious honor to be speaking about. So let me give you some stories about her. They also call her the immortal cell, meaning that it'll never die. That's the thing that changed the world because of Henrietta Lakes in the medical industry. But this is how her story goes. In 1951, she was diagnosed with cervical cancer. And a lot of times, this was around the Jim Crow laws and all the racial stuff going on in America, where a lot of black patients couldn't go to just any hospital. They had to find a hospital that accept colored people. So when she found a hospital that accept colored people, while under surgery, the doctor has cut a small incision and took a sample out of her of the cancerous cell that she had, and he took it out for the analyst to check it without telling her anything whatsoever. Because they have been, here's the thing, he never told her nothing what he was doing, because what they were doing, they have been trying for years to grow human cells outside of the body for years, but always been unsuccessful. But Henrietta's cells, when they took a piece of her cells never died. It's amazing. Isn't it amazing? You would think her and her family would be super mega rich, but this is how corrupt the system is, the systemic system, where they never told her nor her family. Let's go on. As I said, her cells never died. This is something they was trying to create for years. They just couldn't do it. But when they came across her cells, they said, wow, her cells never died. So Henrietta's cells was one of the most important things to ever happen to medicine and the cures for many diseases, such as the polio vaccine, cancer medications, the first ever clone, vitro fertilization. We all know what vitro fertilization means, when a woman can get fertilized, pregnant in a lab, through a syringe, a needle, opposed to the natural way, man and woman. Her cells help to further vitro fertilization and many vaccines to this very day for medical and science achievements around the world. Now you tell me, why isn't her entire family, they should be some of the richest people in the world. But you see how they rob them, and then they tell you got nonsense like different states in the world, or right in Florida, where they saying, oh, we're not going to teach Afro-American history because they got nothing of importance. It's not important. That is the most nonsense things. So let's keep moving, because Henrietta Lakes is incredible. There even was a movie Jamie Foxx was in where they touched on it. See, like I say, they put the truth in your face through movies, through shows, and yes, even through cartoons. But a lot of times we overlook it. See, they touched on it in that movie with Jamie Foxx, but a lot of people missed it. But let's move on, because like I said, the medical and science Henrietta Lakes, her achievements because of her cell was amazing. A lot of medical advancements to this day is based on her cells and her cells only. Now that tells you how great we are. Make sure you tell your kids about her. Matter of fact, when they use her cells, they call it the helix. The first two initials in her first name and the first two in her last name. So H-E-L-A, HeLa. That's what that comes from. So let's move on. Since this governor and other states want to say Afro-American history has nothing to contribute to. This is nonsense. This is what they always do. Always try to discredit us, right? Let's go on with someone else. Now we're gonna go to another medical great genius by the name of Vivian Thomas. Now, who was Vivian Thomas? Vivian Thomas was the guy who performed the very first successful open heart surgery to save blue babies. Now, of course, you may say, blue babies, what's that? Okay, let me give you answers to that. Blue babies is actually a medical term that's called cyanotic heart defect. And what does that mean? AKA blue baby or grayish. Sometimes the baby may have like a blue foot, a blue hand, blue lips, you know, or unfortunately, sometimes their body itself, they may have a grayish blue color to it. It's very dangerous. And Vivian Thomas, he was the one that performed the very first successful open heart surgery to save blue babies. So like I said, that means blue babies is the medical term would be called cyanotic heart defect. And what does that mean? That's the deoxygenated blood bypassing the lungs and entering the systemic circulation. Another way to put that is when the oxygen bypass is low blood pressure and the oxygen passes right by the lungs. Therefore, the baby is not getting the appropriate oxygen, and that's why their skin turned blue. And AKA, unfortunately, a lot of them, thousands, had died. So amazing. So let's continue. So the first open heart successful surgery for blue babies, which had taken the lives of thousands of infants. I know I said that already. So you need to know just how serious this is. It wasn't just here in America. This was all over the world. And they just couldn't figure out how to prevent this. With no medical degree and self-taught, he taught himself. He achieved what no other doctor could. With their medical degrees, they had medical degrees and they couldn't achieve what he achieved, and he was self-taught with no medical degree. And that was a successful procedure in the blue baby syndrome. Remember, blue baby syndrome means cyanotic heart defect. It's not getting appropriate oxygen, and therefore they turn blue. All right, so excuse me, pardon me. He went on to teach many other doctors heart surgery and was given the honorary doctorate. It's amazing. This guy had no medical degree, but he was one of the best and the best, not one of, the best open heart surgery, because they couldn't figure out how was he able to do something. We got medical degrees. He don't. He was saving babies when they couldn't. So to move on, he got an honorary doctorate. And his name was honored by naming Vivian Thomas High School Research Program at the Morehouse School of Medicine. And trust me when I tell you, any mere mention of his name to any heart surgeon comes with great respect and admiration of what he did for the health community and how it changed the landscape of the heart surgery forever around the world. So once again, when you hear nonsense, when people say Afro-Americans didn't contribute nothing that's worthwhile talking about in class, no, think about how they want to teach us nonsense. Like I said, go to my other video. It's called just that, useless education. You tell me how in the world E equals MC squared is going to ever help anybody in life. It's not. They teach you a bunch of nonsense that is not helpful. And then you got nonsense people like Christopher Columbus, who never discovered nothing. He's the greatest disaster in history. Has never did nothing but be a liar, a raper, a kidnapper. The greatest disappointment to anyone would they try to say that's something of greatness. No, that's a lie. So anyway, let's move on. Because I'm just scratching the surface here. Let's move on to someone else, since they want to put that nonsense out there and say Afro-American has no achievements and this and that's not worthwhile putting into the school curriculum. That's nonsense. So anyway, let's move on. But like I said, parents, obligation to teach our children. All right, like I said, I'm just scratching the surface here. Let's go on to the next one. You ever heard of Dr. Mark Dean? Guess what? A lot of people may have never heard of him. Well, that's why I'm going to educate you. Dr. Mark Dean, he helped design and create the very computers we use today. He is a vice president with IBM, or was. He has over 30 patents. Dr. Mark Dean holds 3 of the original 9 patents on the computer that all PCs are based upon. Now, some of us know, some of us don't. If I ask the average person out there, listen to what I just said. He owns 3 of the 9 patents on the very computers that all PCs. What's a PC? Do the average person know what a PC is? Let me tell you something. It's actually really simple. You know what PC stands for? So the next time you're going to buy a computer or you hear somebody say on your PC at your home, you know what a PC stands for? Personal computer. You get that? It's not complicated, folks. That's why I normally love to give you a word of the day. I give you quite a few in this one today. You heard cervical cancer. You heard cyanotic heart defect. You heard deoxygenated blood bypassing the lungs and all that. But let's move on. So Dr. Mark Dean holds 3 of the original 9 patents on the computers that all PCs, personal computers, are based upon to this very day. Yes, even on your phone. And then they want to put nonsense out there and say Afro-Americans that have nothing to contribute to. That's nonsense. I can ask the average person out there. Matter of fact, my wife is filming this right here now. Here it is. She's Puerto Rican. This is why I say parents' obligation to teach our children. You growing up as a young girl in school, Puerto Rican, right? Did you ever see any Puerto Ricans in the books that you had to read in elementary school?
No.
Any inspiration of Puerto Rican heritage?
No.
Middle school, any inspiration or see anyone that look or sound like you in school, middle school?
Not at all.
High school?
Not at all.
This is my point, parents out there. They are not going to teach your kids or inspire your kids. They're going to teach them all European history and tell you your history is not normal. Now, like I said, my wife Puerto Rican, but like the great Paul Mooney said, you know the difference of a Puerto Rican, Colombian, Peruvian, all them other ones, Brazilian, you know the difference of them and me, Afro-American? And I hate saying because I'm African diaspora. That's what I am. African diaspora, meaning I come from Africa. You can't take a lion and take him over to Europe and call him a European lion. This is nonsense. There's no country called Afro-American land. It's nonsense. I'm African diaspora, meaning I took him from Africa. But anyway, see, in this one they'll tell you, just like me growing up, I didn't see nobody in the books that look like me, sound like me, that inspired me. But meanwhile, the white teacher would say, oh, he's not paying attention in class. Yeah, I'm not paying attention in class because guess what? Everything is that, like Dr. Francis Cress Wells said, white, 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 white. Where's the people that look like us? Where's all the great inventions that y'all keep lying to us through omission? Y'all don't even mention it at all. Now I could go on and on, but that was the last one I just want to touch y'all with. Dr. Mark Dean. This is a guy who helped create the internet, the computer. And you talking about we ain't had no great accomplishments. This is nonsense. Remember, it's the title of the video. Parents, obligation to teach our children. But let me just play with you a little bit. Let me just add a little bit more. Now I could go on for days and days and days. It'll be everlasting how much greatness we did because we invented, we created so much to this world. But yet and still they try to discredit us and all our inventions. Remember, there was a time when we couldn't even get a patent. Even now they make it hard to get a patent. And therefore colonizer was always able to steal the black man's patents for the many inventions that he created, and then they take it and steal it for their own. Let me just touch on this. Let me just scratch the surface a little bit. You ever heard of John Stannard? Guess who John Stannard is? He's the guy that invented the very thing you use every day in your life, the refrigerator. Yes, his name is John Stannard, invented the refrigerator. But you don't hear nothing about it, right? But what did that nonsense was put out there saying that Afro-Americans has nothing to contribute in society? It's nonsense. It's no different than if I knew someone that does drugs, does alcohol, always doing criminal behavior, then why would I keep being around them? If I'm being around them, that means I'm doing it. See, this is what they do with us. They say we ain't contribute nothing, but y'all steal everything from us. It's no different than y'all say Africa is poor. But yet and still, why are every other country always over there? Asia, Russia, Europe. Why is they always over there? Y'all export all the natural resources and minerals from Africa, and you import them to Europe. Do you know the only thing that is being exported out of Europe that goes imported to Africa? Literally, they're garbage. Want me to say it a better way for you to understand? They're rubbish. Yes, that's what they export out of Europe and Asia, and they import to Africa. But they export out of Africa all the natural resources and minerals and ship it and import it over to Asia and Europe, and they got the nerve to say, oh, they're poor. They need to get themselves together. Let me just go with another. You ever heard of George Sampson? Guess what? Another guy that you use every day in your life, never quite heard of. George Sampson is the inventor of the clothes dryer. Yes, the very thing that you go to the laundromat and dry your clothes, or you got one in your house. It's a black man invented that. Let's go with another one. Alexander Mills. He invented the elevator doors to safely open and close. See? He's part of that invention of that elevator for the doors. But you never quite heard of this, right? So, like I said, parents' obligation to teach our children. Like I said, I could go on and on and on and how colonizers stole our inventions because we couldn't even get a patent. You can even go, look, I'm gonna just give you one off the top of my head. In 2019, a young girl, only 17 years old, her name is Dasia Taylor, if I remember. I read this a while ago. Dasia Taylor, she invented sutures. Now remember, that's a doctor's term, saying sutures. But we know sutures are stitches. But doctors don't say stitches, they say sutures. Dasia Taylor invented sutures that change colors if there's ever an infection where the sutures are at. Can you imagine that? So them sutures, aka stitches, change colors. They could immediately know, oh, there's something wrong. We got to go in and open up and do surgery all over again because the sutures is telling us. See, we are amazing people. Like Marcus Garvey said, up, up, you mighty race. So don't ever let nonsense like that nonsense right there say Afro-American history doesn't belong in the curriculum of the schools. They have nothing to contribute. That's nonsense. Because that guy who wrote that or believed that, let's see all the corrupt stuff he's done to get in office. Bunch of corrupt stuff. What have they invented, achieved other than that patent building itself to steal everybody's inventions? So, in closing, what I would say, as I said throughout this whole entire video, parents' obligation to teach our children, trust me, is something great for them to know just how great they are and the greatness they come from, because the schools is definitely not going to show it, teach them, or nothing. It's up to you, parents. And as I said, I understand you got a busy schedule and times are hard, but make that time, because it's your obligation to teach our children. And on that note, peace. Subscribe, share, like, and comment. Peace.